Hello, good evening and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Holme Valley Parish Council. I'm Michael Pogson, I'm the chair of this council and I'll be chairing this meeting. At the beginning of this meeting, because it's a public meeting, we have a public question time where it's in the agenda that it should last 15 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm proposing that we extend that slightly because we have 6 people who wish to speak, and to give them all their 3 minutes, we would extend that meeting longer than we normally would do. Is everybody okay with extending public question time until everyone's had the chance to speak who wants to speak? Can I show hands? Thank you very much. Okay, so the first person we have to speak is Mr. David Sykes.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Netherthorne and I'm here to talk about the Motorsport Festival. In March 2019, Holme Valley Parish Council made a pledge to work towards a safe climate by radically reducing greenhouse gas emissions and becoming carbon neutral by 2030, to inform and educate and change behaviours. This motor festival, I understand, went ahead without any environmental impact study being done. The electric buses didn't materialise, and anyway, how would they have been powered? With generators probably. There were no public transport provisions. Next year it's claimed that the festival will be bigger and better, so instead of a limited 2,000 people a day, they're expecting 50,000 people over 3 days. There was no adequate warning for local people of road closures, meaning that the popular walk to Wolfstone Heights trig point was prevented. There were congestion and delays even with just that small number of people there. My son has brittle asthma and I'd be very worried about him being able to get to hospital in an ambulance if that was required. There were a lack of local companies there, and going back to the pledges that have been made by the Parish Council, one is to end our reliance on fossil fuel personal cars with more shared transport and fewer journeys. Yet there's parking provision there for 7,000 cars to come from all parts of the country. So I'm asking, how does that help the Parish Council to meet their commitment on climate change? And the question I've got really is, do the Council want to face a humiliating confrontation with the Extinction Rebellion movement and having to justify a decision to approve this motorsport event? If not, then the Council needs to exercise the powers that it's got and ensure that future festivals of this type are cancelled. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, David. Okay, and next on the list I've got we have a visiting councillor. So Councillor Richard Noon of Meltham Town Council, please. Welcome, Meltham.
So I'm Richard Noon. I'm currently the Deputy Mayor of Meltham Town Council. I'm here tonight in capacity as a resident. I'm not here representing the Town Council, just to be absolutely clear. And I also have no pecuniary interest in the event whatsoever. I don't have a stall, I have absolutely zero to do with it. Whilst I've poured through the several hundred pages of documentation that Council Buster sent on to us on Wednesday, I think it was, whenever it was. Now, the people of Meltham did feel slightly grieved by the event occurring, primarily because there was no advertising, there was nothing to tell us that the event was actually happening. The event happened, limited capacity, and I think that's probably a good thing in retrospect for the event organisers. My belief, and that is based on the many conversations I've had about it, the event, that is, over the past few months, is that the event should go ahead. I am entirely supportive of the event. I believe that the event organisers will have learnt a lot from this particular event, the way that it happened this time, and that their learnings will then be rolled into future years. The majority of the event took place in Northam. We weren't communicated with us, nobody approached the Town Council in Northam. So if there is anybody from the event here tonight, please do have a chat with us, because we would like to work with you in order to deliver the event safely, in an environmentally friendly manner, and one that supports local business, which, for anybody who knows my track record, I'm bob on with that. So that's basically what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Michael Funnell.
My name is Michael Funnell. I live at Carr Farm, Wolfstone Road, which is right on the side of the track. My main gripe is that we had no official notification of this event going back from 2018. There were various rumours, various hearsays, we weren't able to get any detail as to how it was going to affect us, either from Kirklees. The councillors knew nothing, or the Kirklees councillors knew nothing. In fact, we basically, in 2019, we were approached by the two representatives, Michael Soberly and Max so who came to my house and said basically the whole thing is on. We as the residents were given no opportunity to raise any concerns, any objections. They had an agenda. They assured us that my main concern was access in and out of my property for myself and my wife and my daughter. We have horses, and to be fair to them, we said that we insisted that the horses left the site and were put in livery. They were put in livery, and they have paid the bill for that. To be fair, actually on the track, I work Saturday and Sunday, on Sunday morning Saturday morning I was working. On the Saturday afternoon I visited the field, and it seemed to be quite bubbly, and people seemed to be enjoying themselves and all the rest of it. In the meantime, these people were screaming around this track. Nobody was watching them, and I thought that really it's just put on for the benefit of people who want to scream around the roads. To call it a hill climb, well, ain't a hill there. A bicycle could go around that track as fast, and compete. The whole thing's just ridiculous. It was set up to basically it was 100th anniversary of Woolstone's hill climb. They've had the 100th anniversary, and I would very much like to see the fact that the actual road race section of the track of the event is abandoned, and they should just concentrate on the field event and the talking about a musical festival. I think I want to make another Glastonbury or something like that. But they have their own agenda. These people. They say we can go, we can come and go, and all the rest of it. The access point at which we were given was obstructed by their ambulance and by their vehicles. It wasn't possible for us to come back. We could go out, they'd stick a red flag out, and we could go out, but we couldn't come back. If we required any, the horses themselves were, as I said, were away. If we needed to take the horse box out, the roads were blocked. I don't understand why they had to close the roads for 8 days. I don't know at all. That inconvenience, obviously, a lot of other people who use that Woolstones Road as a communication run, particularly taxi drivers and people like that. There was a lot of aggro, basically. The parcel carrier man had aggro with them. Daughter had aggro with them. They have their own agenda. It's their racetrack, not our thing. The whole thing is totally unsatisfactory. They want to race cars, go to a racetrack. There's plenty of them.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a Stephen Hines.
Yes. I'm Stephen Hines, and I also live on the racetrack. I can only comment on the motorsport part of the event. I never went to anything else. So, as I say, my front door sits on the track itself, and I find it difficult to believe that Kirklees Council gave permission for this event without consulting the people that would be most affected. That being said, after some initial problems, the motorsport racing ran quite well, other than the noise aspect. If this goes ahead on other years, they can't be allowed to run cars that have open exhausts. Every racetrack has to have cars that race on the track, have to go through a noise test. These didn't. These ran open exhaust. My neighbour there will tell you the noise was astounding.
Intolerable.
This is a commercial venture by these people. It's carried out to make money for the organisers. And I believe if they wish to carry on with this venture in future years, then I believe they should pay a fee to the Holme Valley Parish Council, and they should donate a percentage of their takings. hopefully the parish council would spend that in the Upper Thumb area. I believe our whole area should benefit as a whole, not just the odd farmer and the odd landowner. The organisers, they need me and they need my neighbours' cooperation to run this motorsport, part of the event. And such, I believe, they can be persuaded to my suggestion. They did donate to a charity of our choosing for our cooperation for this year. And I have to say, they did clean up quite well.
Thank you. Paul Makin.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Parish Council for holding an additional meeting to discuss this, what's clearly a contentious issue. I'm not just representing myself, but also two neighbours who are on holiday. They would have been here. And also two farmers whose farm is on Wickings Lane and adjoins the, should we call it, the racetrack. I've been surprised at what two gentlemen who live on the racetrack have said, because I did believe that they'd been consulted. It only underlines my concerns. I live just round the corner, less than 200 metres from what was the racetrack. And fundamentally, there are a lot of people out there who are speaking in tones that are far less measured than I'm in tonight. There's a very angry group of people, and the fundamental objection is to holding an event of this kind in this beautiful, fragile, rural setting. Closing public roads so that people can run a business and race on them is fundamentally wrong. There are no pavements on these roads that were closed, and many of them are only wide enough for one car to pass safely. There are many local cyclists, walkers and runners that use these roads and tracks. The event has a negative impact on hundreds of people. It affected their well-being. The roads are unsafe, and people mention the walk to the event as being hairy. I personally saw people climbing into the event. I was not consulted. I found out by the local paper. I wasn't given any information until I hounded Kirkby Council. I contacted him 12 times, and I got a little bit of information the day before the event. This is in contravention of the licence. There's been a very significant amount of extra traffic in the area, as well as in Holme, Winford Road, for example. And I believe that Holme Valley Parish Council have declared a climate emergency and have committed to combating climate change. My big question is, how does this event line up with that commitment?
Thank you. And then I've got Nicola Rust.
Thank you. Thank you for holding this meeting and allowing me to speak. I live within 50 metres of one of the road closures, right on the edge of the racetrack, and also I live on one of the roads where the traffic was diverted down. I could hear all of the hill climb races loudly from where our house was, and I could also hear noise from the site on one of the evenings when some sort of event or announcement took place. I was not contacted or consulted with by the organisers or Kirkby, despite being significantly impacted by this event. I live in a rural area, as you all know. You all know the area, rich in biodiversity. In the fields around the site and around the hill climb, I and others regularly see and hear curlew, snipe, breeding lapwings, barn owls, little owls, hares, bats, hedgehogs, and numerous other creatures. Many of these creatures are rare and a reference of specific interest in Kirkby's biodiversity strategy and plan, and also by DEFRA. I would be happy to show committee members or council experts where to view this wildlife in this area. I'm therefore confused and shocked as to why Kirkby's council would even consider granting a licence for this type of event and the size and scale of it, when it is really such a haven for wildlife. It appears to be directly contravening the biodiversity strategy and plan, and also the climate change commitments made by the council. I would expect that an environmental impact assessment would have been done to assess the noise and pollution damage based on the hill climb itself, the event goers travelling to and from the site, ditto suppliers, and activities on site. I've seen nothing of that, and no one has spoken to me about that. There are limited opportunities for public transport to this type of event. We have no station, and due to local and the infrastructure in the area is not suitable for events of this nature and scale, and also presents a safety risk to those young and old, and everyone in between who regularly walk, cycle, run or horse ride on these narrow roads with no pavements. I expect other communities are affected and have been affected as vehicles pumping out diesel trucks through their area. The event, as other people have said at this meeting, the event only appears to benefit the organisers and a small demographic with a specific interest, largely applicable to white males between 35 and 65. It does not benefit our wider diverse community and damages the environment. There appears to be no disability arrangements either for the event. I've seen minimal anecdotal evidence of local benefit. Somebody said that tourist accommodation is full, but that would be the case due to lifting of COVID restrictions and many people not being able to or able to afford to travel abroad at this time. Local businesses were not involved and some have had a detrimental impact. I work in public sector and I therefore cannot see a business case that stacks up for our community and for our beautiful rural environment. I therefore ask you to withdraw any further support for this event.
Okay, thank you. That's all the people that have notified me previously before the beginning of the meeting would like to speak. Have we got anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, the gentleman with the back of the white t-shirt.
Stephen Rowan Netherthorne. I'd like to endorse the report from Councillor Bristol, which I thought was very good. And I'll be very short. I've been going to hill climbs since 1962, Shelsley Walsh, which is one of the best in the country. This was not a hill climb. It was shoddily produced, badly organised, and as people have said, I think basically the people who organised it was for them and no one else. But this whole thing seems to me totally ridiculous. It's rather like Cumbria wanting to open a coal mine when we're trying to combat climate change. In 8.5 years, the sale of petrol-driven cars is going to end. Probably within 10 years, all petrol-driven cars will be banned from the road. And yet here we are promoting petrol cars. It's madness. If this were to go ahead, I think this would make a great target for Extinction Rebellion. And certainly I would be one of those organising against it and do what may to stop it. It seems ridiculous that we have one great asset in this area, and that is Holme. And next year is the Tour de Yorkshire cycle race, and that's the kind of thing that we should be promoting because it fits in with climate change and all the things that we are trying to do. And I think we should do more in that area. I can't be against festivals because I help run one. I might support a festival of e-cars because they are more and more common, and we have quite a few now in the Holme Valley. There is an e-formula, and we could do that. But to promote petrol cars, absolute madness.
Okay, thank you. Before I close the public question time, have we got anybody else who would like to speak? Public question time. Would any of the council like to speak in the capacity of a member of the public?
Yeah, I would,
okay.
As a local resident and parish councillor for the Netherthorne ward. I think we've heard from many of the speakers that one of the big issues here was consultation, especially with those who were directly affected, such as the gentleman from Carr Farm and Mr Hines here. I have brought with me a bit of an email chain because I was in communication with some of the residents who were affected by this event and who were receiving basically quite threatening. They got a marketing knock on the door. It was Phil Murray up at the new property at the top of Bradshaw Lane, who specifically had concerns. He was thinking his wife couldn't get out to go to work, for instance, for 6 days while the road was shut. So I think we've picked up that there was really a complete lack of consultation with the locals. I basically get frozen out from Kirklees. As a councillor, I get frozen out from being informed by Kirklees. But just for the information of the local residents, Phil Murat was in communication with me. I did chase up on the road closures. Very difficult to get any information from Kirklees. Even asking the specific questions, you know what's coming. Are the road closures approved? Are you talking to anybody about them? No. Frozen out, even as a councillor, frozen out from that communicative process. So the problem we've got, whilst the Holme Valley Parish Council has no authority in this matter, it should be the residents' first port of call in their communications with the powers that be. But Kirklees, they don't want to advise the parish council, they don't want to advise the parish councils, and the communication that you've highlighted to us today, it's not a surprise to me as your local parish councillor who's been chasing up on this matter for quite some time.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the agenda as is. Just to make, it's great that so many members of the public have turned up, and thank you all for coming. Because I expect this to be quite a lengthy discussion regarding this item, we will take it at the end. Normally we may bring items of this nature forward on the agenda when there's members of the public, but hopefully we can get through our normal council business as quickly as we can, and we'll get to the matter that you're all here for, so hopefully we'll plough on. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, item 212232, Public Bodies Admission to Meetings, Act 1960, amended by Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014. As local, parish and town council meetings can now be recorded, the chairman to check if anybody wishes to record the meeting to ensure reasonable facilities can be provided. The officer will be making a audio recording of the meeting for upload to the parish council's YouTube channel. Okay, is everyone okay with that? Great stuff. Okay, to accept apologies for absence.
We've got apologies from Councillor Kath Bellamy, who's recovering from illness, from Councillor Judith Roberts, from Councillor Darryl Gould, who's isolating, Councillor Di Hall, who's isolating, Councillor Charles Greaves, who is in another meeting, Councillor Paul Dixon, I don't know why he left actually, and I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 2022-34, to receive members' interest in items on the agenda and to consider any request for new DPI dispensations. Okay, none received. 21-22-35, to receive officers' interest in items on the agenda.
No.
None. Okay, 21-22-36, to consider whether any items on the agenda should be discussed in private. I'm not aware of any. Is anybody else? No. Okay. 21-22-37, to approve the draft minutes of the recent meetings. The annual council meeting held on the 12th of July 2021, numbered 21-22-09 to 21-22-31 inclusive. I move those that are an accurate record. Sorry, Councillor Dawson, would you like to speak to those?
I would like to speak on
okay, thank you.
Items on the minutes. Minute item 2021 open session. Paragraph number 7. A third councillor spoke about the proposed erection of an 18-metre 5G mast in New Mill. The site of the 18-metre 5G mast, which the councillor spoke about the erection of, is at the top of Hayes Road in the Wooldale ward by the House High School. Okay. This councillor spoke against the location of the project. The councillor didn't actually speak against the location of the project. The councillor spoke about how much communication he'd had from members of the public about the location of the 18-metre mast and the associated box equipment, and made the council aware of the local representation that he had received. Okay. It was a he. So if that note could be corrected to get the location of the mast correct, and that the objections were reflective of the public opinion rather than the councillor himself.
Okay. Okay.
And the second item on the minutes, item 21, 22, 27, grant application.
Just before we move, have you got that, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Grant application from Holme Show. I'd like that to read Holme Show Limited. The grant application was from a limited company. Could that refer to a grant being voted in support of for a limited company, Holme Show Limited?
Can that be amended to reflect that?
If that's the case, yeah.
They are a limited company, a not-for-profit organisation, but they are a limited liability company. Have you any other matters?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so on that one, I'll move that those are an accurate record as I was chair of that meeting. Have we got someone at seconds? All those in favour? Thank you very much. And then we have a Public Communication Standing Committee meeting held on the 5th of July 2021, number 212201 to 212260 inclusive. Have we got a member of the Public Comms Committee here who'd like to move that?
I'll propose them, please.
Okay, we've got a seconder. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, and schedule of payments. Consider approval of the new payments in a month-to-date schedule of payments for July. Members need only consider the highlighted transactions, others are already approved. Has everybody seen the latest document sent out by Richard today, was it?
That's right, yeah.
Has everybody seen that? I've got some people shaking their heads. Do you want me to go through what the differences are, Jason?
I'll rely on the rest of the council to, it's okay, I'll go with it. I've not chance to review.
Okay, I think one was a trophy, wasn't it? And
Are you talking about the ones that were added
Yeah,
today?
yeah.
There were poo bags basically, and the other two from today were.
The room hire of it.
Pardon?
the room
Room
hire.
hire of it.
Oh yeah, it was a room hire here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that they were paid before September.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be paid until then.
Okay, thanks for that, Richard. So providing we're all okay with that, are we agree? Do we someone want to move that we agree to pay those?
Yeah.
All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, neighbourhood plan update. Councillor Hogg, would you like to give us the update, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, okay, we've got that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just to advise the council that I'm pleased to say the Holme Valley Neighbourhood Plan has completed its independent examination process. The planning examiner, who's an independent person, has issued his final report containing his modifications, and he's recommended, as it states in the agenda, that with those modifications the development plan meets its basic conditions, which is what he has to look for, and it can proceed to a referendum. So what we've had to do as a consequence is our planning consultant has made the modifications that have been instructed by the examiner, and now the plan goes to the Peak District's National Parks Planning Authority or Planning Committee in early August, and to Kirklees Council's Cabinet at the end of August, 31st of August, where they endorse it, and then it can go to referendum. And that referendum, which should happen, the sort of rules about how quickly it can happen, but it should happen around the end of October. That's when residents of the Holme Valley have the choice as to whether to wish to adopt. They're asked the question. There's a specific wording for the question. I can't remember what it is, but I can confirm that. Which asks all residents, all voters in the valley, whether they wish to adopt the plan. And if they do vote to adopt the plan, then it becomes a series of policies that are considered in all planning applications going forward. And I've also said that the planning committee has been overseeing the neighbourhood plan process throughout, and I would suggest that they oversee the final stage as they continue that responsibility, and that they undertake any publicity that's associated with informing residents about the referendum. We're not allowed to legally campaign for a yes vote, but we can do information so that people know what the neighbourhood plan is and when the referendum is, so that when the ballot papers arrive on people's doormats, they know what it's about. So it's just to make full council aware of where we are in the process.
Okay, is there any comments on that? Thank you for that, Rachel, and that's noted. Okay, item 212240, Yorkshire Motorsport Festival. To review the 2021 Yorkshire Motorsport Festival event, to consider a report and supporting documentation on the event regarding what the Parish Council can learn from the event that has just taken place, and what it needs to do proactively to plan for the future of this event and other similar large-scale events. Councillor Bustard to present. Councillor Bustard.
How long have I got?
As long as you want, councillors.
Oh,
You're not
great.
governed.
Do you mind if I sit at the front?
I don't mind where you stand.
Right. Thank you very, very much for convening the meeting. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Mark Bustard. I'm the new councillor for Holme Central. I was elected at the start of this year. I first found out about this event, received a circular on the 22nd of May, received nothing about it, knew nothing about it before that. My day job is that I'm a specialist planner for large-scale public events. I run a consultancy business in London doing exactly that. I sit on the board of the cross-sector industry events for planning for this type of event. I previously worked for Formula 1, Formula E, and we, part of the group, wrote the guidance for these sorts of events. It's exactly what I do for a living. I was very surprised that we knew nothing about it. So what I've done is produced a quick report. What I propose to do is to go through the report in brief detail, otherwise we'll be here all night. From the report, I've drawn 5 conclusions, and following that, I'd like to put a motion forward that Holme Parish Council writes to Kirklees Council and to Motorsport UK to withdraw any support of any licences for this event.
Sorry, Mark,
Yes.
just a question to the Chair.
Yep.
If there's to be a motion, that has to be published beforehand, doesn't it?
I believe you are right, yeah. According to our standing orders, a motion, if it's to be put forward to the Parish Council, should be published with the agenda so many days beforehand. I don't think that motion has actually been published with the agenda. However, I'm quite happy to continue with the discussion.
So, yeah, absolutely.
So sorry, I came to the last meeting and I requested that the motion was brought, and I'm not sure exactly all the reasons why. Obviously we've requested, and several members of the public have requested that, so I'm not sure why it is the case that we can't resolve that this meeting. So there are clearly some legal aspects to that, and there's breach of legislation and guidance to which we are responsible, and Kirklees is responsible. I don't think we should continue to put support into something that has legal premise. I've asked for this now 3 times. I've put forward as a proposal. My understanding is that is a motion. Now, if there's anything other than that, I'm keen that we get this resolved. We agreed that October was too late, and we've come here to resolve this. So I'd like to propose that we do exactly what we agreed to do.
Councillor Bustard, would you yield to Councillor Dolan?
Yeah, Councillor Bustard wishes to bring a motion, and one has not been brought forward for tonight's meeting in accordance with the standing orders, which I think is what you're suggesting, Mr. Chairman. Then I'll be quite happy to be the second councillor to Mr. Bustard's motion if he wants to bring one forward at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you for that.
Could I propose that we then have a subsequent emergency meeting, exactly the same as this one, to get this done before October? Because we've agreed, we've said we would get this done, and we're failing to do so. And we said we'd get this done in March 2020. It is now July 2021.
Councillor Bustard, are you speaking as behalf of the Parish Council, or are you speaking for yourself as an individual councillor?
As a Parish Council, at the last meeting that I spoke at, we said we would get this done.
You said we would discuss it. You didn't say it would be a motion. Can I yield the floor to Councillor Dalton?
Just repeat my comments. I mean, I'm not too sure when the next scheduled meeting.
It is October.
It is October.
We've got. I didn't see which one of you first. So I'm going to go Councillor Hogler, then Councillor Brooke.
I was just going to point out that, to be fair to Councillor Bustard, at the end of his initial report, he does state in his conclusions, I'd like to propose that Firth, which obviously should say Home Valley, Parish Council withdraws any support for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival. So personally, I regarded that as his proposal, albeit it's not in the formal agenda. So that's just my view. So I think there is a proposal there.
Okay. Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, there's no reason this council tonight could come up with a decision where a proposal gets seconded and voted in, where we can do something about some actions. There's no reason why we can't do that as a parish council. We can come up with some sort of thing where we can write to the Kirklees and do that. We don't need to do, as you suggested, we can do that as a parish council tonight and agree that on terms if we feel wish as a parish council to write to Kirklees and say that we're not happy about this event. But it's got to be discussed in a proper manner, and then at the end of the year, somebody can make a proposal and it could be seconded, and then if the parish council are satisfied with that and accepts it, it can be done forward. That is the best way to do it tonight.
I thought I'd made a proposal by using the words I propose and putting it into documentation and writing it. At the last, I've sat here before and said I would like to propose. I've then written to the council saying I would like to propose, and I'm saying it again. I would like to propose that we write to Kirklees Council and to Motorsports UK to withdraw any support for this event. And I'll go through the list of reasons. And at the minute, it says, according to Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK, this event has the full support of the Parish Council. If it doesn't, let's correct the record. Let's at least be correct and be truthful. Where's the integrity otherwise? This is my problem. I've come here, there are lots of other people here. Where's our integrity and where's our purpose if we can't make a decision?
Councillor Davis, then Councillor Blacker.
I think, Councillor Starr, I would really ask if we could tone our language down and attacking councillors' integrity, when simply all that's been pointed out is if something isn't right in terms of standing order, all that will happen is the work that you've done will come to nothing. So that, unfortunately, is the way we have to operate. It's nothing that is trying to undermine anything you're doing, but there are standing orders which are the same stuff. And I know you're very keen on legal requirements and statutory requirements, and that's all that's been pointed out. I think we have to be very careful when we start talking about the integrity of the council and councillors. So I really would ask if we could stay away from those discussions.
I take your point, I disagree with that. I think you do need to have some integrity, Paul, and I think we need to have some integrity.
Can we speak through the chair, please?
I'm sorry.
Can you speak through the chair?
You do need to.
Really, I really have to say this is inappropriate. If we're going into a situation where personal attacks are now starting to be made upon our own integrity, that is really inappropriate. What would be far better, in my view, is quite right, as you said, to go through the evidence, to go through your proposal, but I think it's really not appropriate to do that. And I think in light of this, an issue which clearly has an impact on individuals, clearly people are passionate about, I think that it's far better if we keep this in a non-emotional, rational way.
Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Dalton.
Yeah, may I ask the Chair to make a decision on whether... This is the paperwork as we have it. The motion, there's no motion listed in the agenda. However, Councillor Bustard, in his document, Yorkshire Motor Sports Festival produced for the Holme Valley Parish Council, in the document it actually says, I would like to propose that Holme Valley Parish Council withdraws any support, bracket, explicit or implied, for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival, and requests that Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK revoke licences for hosting future events. Now, could I ask the Chair to make a decision on whether that constitutes a motion under the standing orders or whether it doesn't, and we can move on, please?
Yeah, I got to that point, the thing myself. I believe it is my decision that whether we make that. And considering that this document was circulated with the rest of the agenda on the time, I will rule that the motion should be heard and we should vote on it, but strictly to what the motion itself says and what was published. So strictly the motion will be, the proposal is that Holmfirth Parish Council withdraws any support, explicit or implied, to the Yorkshire Sports Motorsports Festival, and request that Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK revoke licences for hosting future events. And I will limit the motion that we vote on to that and that alone. But would you like to continue, Mark?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. So I've produced this produced report. So the event is advertised as the largest and most spectacular day in the north, 3 days of outdoor events, including the hill climb, a whole load of other stuff. My understanding is that it was originally planned for 2020 but rescheduled for 2021 due to COVID. As I've said, the first time I found about this was 22nd of May, advertised to 50,000 people over 3 days, and this being the weekend of removal restrictions. That would have been the largest such event in the country anywhere at that time, completely separate to any of those. It's noted it's the first time a motorsports event has been held in Kirklees. The Safety Advisory Group minutes, appendices 7A to 7C, that a land agreement is in place with Kirklees Metropolitan Council for 5 years. So this is not a one-off event, this is the first of 5 years. It's an event due to place annually. Correspondence with the chair site refers to this as an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Various other pieces of information show that this is a contract between Kirklees and Kirklees as the event organiser. I've requested this in the Freedom of Information Act, declined due to its commercial. So this is a commercial event. This is a commercial arrangement between Kirklees Council and the event organiser. Let's be no two minds about it. The event organiser is Yorkshire Motorsport Festival Limited. It's a private limited company set up in August 2019, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Holmfirth Motorsport Festival Limited, which is a private limited company set up in 2019. The accounts show net liabilities, they owe 76 grand, director bulk is the same. The event organiser is listed as Yorkshire Motorsports Festival, and I've put a link into the festival terms. The festival is typically directed by the organiser with the policy that tickets are final, can't be exchanged, no refunds, so on and so forth. This is unusual. It's unusual for a company that's no previous experience of running events in this way, taking directly without a named bona fide principal design primary contractor, as you require under CDM 2015 legislation, to be offered the support of a parish council in any way on behalf of businesses and residents to a letter of no objection by a local authority SAG or any licences granted. I've listed out the relevant guidance for this, for these types of events, including specifics around government guidance for COVID-19, organised events for local authorities, all that other stuff. I've listed and put reference to some of the motorsports legislation, though I won't go through the detail. It should be noted that the event, as I said, was hosted on the weekend after the proposed removal of restrictions. Due to the extension of the restrictions, it was changed at short notice, and we flagged this with Kirklees, or I flagged it, that there were no other events running at this sort of short notice, and they're dropping into secondary guidance. The reasons being that simply doesn't allow the time to provide a reasonable set planning. The government guidance is still underway at the time. The download pilot event for those involved in camping was the following weekend. According to DCMS and Public Health England, it's entirely at the risk of the council, but was highly unusual. Also understood from Jane O'Donnell at Kirklees that the introduction of lateral flow testing as a condition of entry was by the organiser rather than Kirklees, this not being or forming part of the guidance at any time. However, it's also noted that none of the tickets were actually some of the tickets weren't checked, tests weren't done, so there's no real access control for this event. None of the legislative guidance, anything that I put in there, is included in the Holme Parish Council meetings, SAG meetings, or any information I've received. No published event management plan, event safety plan, risk assessment, progress plan, or any other evidential documents that shows compliance or safe event planning. The licensing permissions that are required for these types of events are granted by the Kirklees Council as the local authority, and Motorsports UK is the designated authority for motorsports events. I've outlined some of the relevant legislation for Motorsports UK events as the designated authority. What I say is that these sorts of closed events are unusual. They do happen in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Legislation changed in Scotland last year due to the accident in the RSC Rally, but they're very infrequent in England and Wales due to the onerous legislation and planning. These are quite unusual types of events. I've included the appendices, S12D, which is worth a note, the TTRO, and the town police clauses, which says the reference is one of the other, the TTRO. As there's no actual specific report with regards to the motorsports aspects of the event, we can't really comment on it other than various people have noted that there were engines running without baffles, which is in breach of various pieces of legislation and guidance. Again, we shouldn't be doing that. The S12B application is the Mid-Derbyshire Motorsports Club, again, not the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival, we reference the promoter. The arrangement between the two is unclear, no copies and plans of insurance provided. Point C of the S12B, and this is important, states that the application of the council, Kirklees Council, is considered A, the likely impact on the event on the local community, B, the potential local economic and other benefits, and C, any other information that the council thinks is relevant. Point D states the council is satisfied that A, adequate arrangements have been made to allow the view of the local community to be taken into account. B, the promoter has shown that the event is commercially viable, and C, effective arrangements have been made to involve local residents. These are the conditions of the licence. The residents and people, including the Parish Council, have been consulted and provided their permission, and this is reflected in the licences themselves. It says, black and white, Holme Parish Council provides the full support to this event, and the same for residents. And I checked with Motorsports UK, they said the same, that residents have been contacted, no objections. Typically, in these sorts of events, you would expect a business and residents engagement plan, a traffic management plan, including not just the immediate area, but access and consideration of traffic impacts on a wider area. Impacts from an event of 30,000 accessed by B roads are severe. Socio-economic impact study, including the involvement of local businesses, importantly and critical to some of the things that have been raised, environmental impact study, and a corresponding sustainability policy for the event. None of these are evident. Schedule 1 of the order identifies the closure of Woolstones Road, Bradshaw Road only, noting that this differs from the eventual TTR law. There's a gap there between what's proposed in Schedule 1 of the TTR appendix. My understanding is that the original event, what was discussed at the old cafe, the only consultation in 2019 was a Hillpine and Woolstones, and the corresponding closure of 2 roads for a capacity of 3,000 people, and what was licensed was a capacity of 30,000 people, and a significantly larger footprint. No understanding of why or where this jump was made. Schedule 3 of the order comprises the conditions of the organising permit, including vehicle requirements and tonners. Again, the following notes that I put in focus on the event planning of residents rather than all the supporting elements. A, that the event does not take place unless the final event management plan has been submitted to the council, and approved no later than 7 days prior to the event due to commence. That's the event management plan. It's understood that this was not fulfilled, and that's noted in SAG notes, and you can't fulfil it because the guidance was changed on the Monday and the event went on site on the Thursday. Simply not possible within the time. Less time runs backwards. According to the industry bodies, and I checked with the NOAA, National Outdoor Events Association, which we members, and the EIF, Events Industry Forum, no other events of this type or scale were allowed to proceed with such short planning. Typical planning at the moment is 6 weeks, not 6 days. Point B, provide a full risk assessment covering all aspects of the event, in particular event safety of all the plans. Again, not fulfilled due to the timings. Point C, submit applications to temporary road closures, including 16A order applications, TTRO requirements including maps, TMPs, other routes, and questions on the exact routes of closures, so on and so forth. Again, none of this is provided. M, provide a residence handbook to the occupiers of all building access from roads closed during the event, or who are likely to be affected or inconvenienced by the event, no later than 2 weeks before the event. Now, as we know, if you have an event in Holme with a capacity of 1,500–2,000 people, the roads jam up. An event of 30,000 people is a mail drop to the entire area. It's significant and it's not been done. The handbook should include full information about the event, including proposed times, notice, procedures, so on and so forth. Detailing it, an information sheet was provided to residents in lieu of a handbook, and that was provided on the Thursday night prior to the event, which was provided as a blank piece of paper. Sorry, not a blank piece of paper. Insert here details into the contact information, subsequently revised. I've added that into the appendices. Not advertised in the town centre, there's an A5 to flyer in the window of 1014, and in Wilson Services, further posted did go up during the week, but again too late. The Appendix A detailing the application process, again closed roads, section relevant landowners, residents, commercial operators, says, and this is the Motorsports UK guidance, that it should include the approach roads. So anybody on an approach road to this event or impacted by it should have been contacted and asked if they were supported. It is understood from the business residents that, and it's noted in the SAG, that a business residence mail drop is noted as one of the most essential tasks to be carried out, and so it's never done. Few business or residents were contacted. As I've said, it's just not there. The planning is simply not there. Upon contacting Motorsports UK, everybody's saying that this has all been done. People are saying today that this is not. The Appendix 4 TTRO special events order, again go through that. That increases restriction of access bicycles, pedestrian movement, including there should be notification of a diversion route. So again, there should be signs up saying which way to go, so if you're trying to go to school, all those sort of things, you should know how to get around. I've detailed out the road closures. I've put the appendix in. The blue notices, there are 3 notices that were displayed in 2020 for the site, showing the event dates and timings. Timings and dates are incorrect. Also noted that 3 notices for an event of this scale for 30,000 completely inadequate. Also included the examiner advert February 2020 and term clauses which relates. Further to that, and dropping through, you can look at the pass and repass rights that are not extinguished by a TTO, including those for right-of-ways and pathways. The absence of any planning around that would leave the organising statutory bodies up to complaints or worse. Further on, it goes down to that, and most important, known health appointments. So anybody who's got a hospital, a doctor's appointment, a home visit, Meals on Wheels, they should have been contacted. We do a closed roads event, we've done plenty of these. We make sure that those people know that they're going to be inconvenienced and they can make appropriate plans or arrangements.
Point of order, Councillor Bustard. When you're referring to we, who are you referring to?
In terms of, as a business. If we, as a business, organise this type of event, as in it's a standard thing you do, you would do a mail drop, make sure that people know that there's an event going ahead. Apologise. With regards to the residents' emails on it, and the approach roads, again, they've been done. There's a big piece here on the Human Rights Act. If that's not been done, it is a breach of the Human Rights Act. Minutes of this meeting, you could send it, and that'd be ample. The contravention act is legal. Article 1 should protect everyone's rights. By implication, that's to preserve enhance life prospects through time in healthcare. You can't get to the doctor system, that's a breach. Various others around that. it just shows a lack of risk assessment management of local life considerations carrying around this. Traffic management planning around that, again, there's no train station accessing this, there's no special bus service. Special bus service advertised from Holme, 2 park and rides, but again cancelled. Therefore, everybody has to walk and drive there. 7,000 cars is nuts. No disabled access or accessible provisions. Again, we've never seen an event that has no disabled or accessible provisions. There's no evidence of using a traffic management, demand management toolkit. Just not there. The idea that 30,000 people car parking for 7,000 this capacity is reasonable, or wouldn't have a traffic impact wider than the immediate area, again, just doesn't stack up with any other events. The key cause of complaint here is just the scale of the events proposed would have severe impacts on business and residents, which haven't been consulted by the organiser or the fees. As noted in the SAG, again, that Holmfirth and as James raised, Netherthorne are the main areas of concern that stop and go operatives we needed at Greenfield Road. Again, just not done. Blue notices, not done. Conditional licences that road closures advance warnings displayed 14 days prior, couldn't happen Tuesday. Again, not done. Signage only installed 4 days, 3 signs only. 2 signs relating to road closures, the other ones for site traffic. Signs got the wrong date on them. Starters, they included the wrong date, 22nd, 21st, the TTR is, the 21st, the TTR was correct, but got the wrong signs on it. And again, people have noticed that even though the closures went on Monday, there's no work undertaken until Wednesday or Thursday, so you close the roads for no reason. Not regarding that, no notice for footpaths, again, that's contravention of legislation guidance, and there's reasonable complaint there for restriction access to trip point. Absolutely no signage up from Netherthorne. People at Netherthorne reasonably upset, as evidenced by the letters. The licences are under the 2002 Local Authority Licensing Act, a focus around the provision of alcohol.
Point of order.
Sorry?
Yep.
You refer to letters.
Yes.
Letters that you've received personally or the council's received.
Personally, as a councillor, included in the appendices there, I've taken the names out, but I haven't provided them on to you.
Thank you, that would be good to
Completely, yeah.
get some feedback as a councillor.
Yeah, and I'll hold my hand up. I didn't know that this crosses 3 boundaries. We've invited the people from Melbourne here and heard that they've not been consulted with the people from Netherthorne. It just seems like it's consistent that nobody's been consulted. Concerned about the role of the Parish Council, that we've not been cited on this, despite it saying in the Safety Advisory Group and Motorsports UK that this event has our full support. If it doesn't, we need to correct the record. Understood that it was discussed in March 2020, but no further action. I've highlighted some concerns regarding the use of land or proximity to land charity stuff. Again, normally you'd expect there to be an MOU or just a complaint regarding that. The audience and demographics around this is advertised nationally but locally. There are no local people invited to this event. That's not what it's there for. The marketing references a capacity of 50,000 over 3 days. It's not clear in any of the legislation, any licensing documentation, how many people this event's actually licensed for. But it does say they have infrastructure in place to cope with 30,000 and an expectation of 15,000 per day. Significantly different than things that we've heard before. Again, it was cut down to 4,000 a day in line with roadmap set 3, and then subsequently to 2,000 a day due to COVID, and that was by Police and Jane McDonald, Head of Health Protection. The event location is quite often said, there's plenty of fields over there, there's lots of space, but it's not how much space you've got, it's how much impact you have and how many people you get in and out of it. Exactly the same as the 5 capacity brewery. The idea again, you've got car parking for 7,000 people, can you get 7,000 cars in and out of that site? There's no traffic impact, so no details suggest that that's a reasonable thing to do. I got a map from Mid Derbyshire Motor Club, shows lots of fields, doesn't show any traffic or planning access routes. The business and residents liaison, I think we're reasonably covered, and there just isn't that level of consultation there at all. Nothing around this stuff with the oil cafe, nothing's come out of that. Requested by Freedom of Information Act, didn't get anything back. The specific stuff around business and residents notification, reference community plan, not a copy of that. There's a difference between the event area and the impacted area, and this features in the public guide, purple guide, and the guidance. The event area as the area where you hold your events, in the fields, and in this instance, the closed roads. The impacted area is anybody who's community report I've mentioned, environmental impacts. There's no evidence by anybody on this regarding that there's an environmental impact done or a sustainability policy in place. The list of stuff that's on here again is just doesn't reflect any of the guidance that we work to, we being the events management companies. It's nothing to do with the Purple Guide or National Outdoor Events or any of the industry guidance, just some random stuff. And again, as other people have said, if we're truly serious about climate change or the environment, then we should be holding best standards, not just some random stuff that's been done. Socio-economic impacts, we just can't see that there's anybody from local business hugely involved in this. Speaking of people, Scott's Chip is often pitched like 500 quid plus percentage of takings. This is a profit-making exercise, it's not community event. The conclusions around this for me, and look, I'm an event organiser, I'm happy for people to get their pleasure wherever they like, as long as it's legal, it's compliant, it's well organised, and it doesn't negatively impact on others. I'm not here to bash them though. I think there are very clear conditions set out by licences, by Kirklees and by Motorsports UK. I think it's also very, very clear that these conditions are not met. The event planning doesn't follow the legislation guidance or best practice. And despite repeated requests, I'm pushing this since I learned about the event, there's no evidence to suggest that this event is appropriate for the scale or that area, or that the event organiser is capable of organising an event. I have serious concerns about this. It's a condition of these licences that the event organisers are fully engaged with on obtaining the support of the local community, including the Parish Council, specifically noted in the Motorsports UK. When I phoned them, they said this event has the full support of residents and the Parish Council. 1 or 2 complainants, all satisfied. While it's stated that's the case, from what I understand and what I'm hearing tonight, this doesn't have the full support. There's no economic impact study, no evidence to suggest this of any benefit to anybody in the whole valley. No environmental impact study or sustainability policy to suggest that this is of any impact or that it reasonably falls in accordance with the broad policy or strategy objectives. Just doesn't reflect good practice or a sustainable approach to event planning. Kirklees Council have not requested a copy of a post-event report, which would usually be required or provided by an event organiser to mention the event, to see if it's a good idea and whether you do it again. Again, without any measurement, it's impossible to qualify the event as having anything other than a negative effect and to support an ongoing licence. Therefore, I would like to propose that Holme Parish Council withdraws any support, explicit, implied, for the multi-sport.
Point of order.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it's Holme for, not Holme for Valley Parish Council, it's
Holme Valley Parish Council.
I should know, I do apologise. I'm still learning.
no problem.
I'd like to request that Parish Council withdraws any support for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival and request that Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK revoke the licences for future events. There are also several pages of feedback from residents. I posted on Facebook. Facebook is an echo chamber, a world from itself.
Mark, I'm sorry, but we're now at 9 o'clock.
I'll stop.
In order to prevent you from filibustering yourself and us running out of time, I'd like to open it up to the council so they can actually comment, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
You've got to the motion. Is that okay? Okay, would anyone like to, any of the council like to make a comment? No? So I've got Councillor Dalton, Councillor Hogley, Councillor Davis, Councillor Brooke, Councillor Sheard. I'll take them in that order. Councillor Dalton.
Yes, firstly thank you to Councillor Bustard for his presentation. A couple of corrections. I mean, to suggest that there were no local firms involved is not particularly, well, it's not accurate. The festival was centred around the Australia farm. Her sons have a company, successful Meltham business, Town Door, and they were very central to the organisation, is my understanding of things. I'm surprised that the workers' rights were not brought up, seeing as how the car park stewards didn't get the money at the end of the event that they were promised. They were local young folk as well. But as it happens, they're still keen to see the event come back because they're sure that it'll be an improvement next time. I'll actually not be supporting your motion tonight, Councillor Bustard. I do agree that the Holme Valley Parish Council should not, as my views were clear prior to the event, should not be supporting the event, and I did make it clear that the optics with respect to the climate emergency group, who were all too keen to get a stall up and running at the event, I suggested the optics might not be too good if they went down that route. Like the parish councillor the town councillor from Melton, the feedback I've actually had from those who attended the event was very much of a good day. It was great to have an event in the locale. Very good feedback on the enjoyment, even though a lot of the parts of the event were curtailed. If we were, I think we were going to have pop concerts. I didn't attend the event. I've got no axe to grind. Either way, my gripe was really with the manner in which the event organisers dealt with the local people who they'd knocked on the door of and who'd given me some feedback. And quite frankly, the approach was downright rude. I think they came a little bit better later on as the event approached. That was certainly the feedback I got from one of the residents. And I'll leave you with Mr. Chairman, with the copy of the email from that particular resident. In fact, I'll read it out because it basically reinforces what I think we're all hearing, which was Kirklees. Does anybody actually do their job at Kirklees? And I think the answer is probably no. Hi James, thank you so much for that. That being the notifications on the road closures, which I really had to dig around and beg for from the local highways authorities. They were actually signed on the 10th of June. This is an email from Phil Murat on the 15th of June. Thank you so much for that. It's the most information I've seen so far. I did contact the councillor and did get a reply, but no information and no help either. I wrote to Kirklees and didn't even get a reply. In the end, we decided to join in. If you can't beat them, join them, evidently. And they offered him some money to use his fields for access, and so obviously he was less against the event once they'd compensated him for the disruption to his life. His wife, as I say, works in a special school, and was literally concerned that she wouldn't be able to get to and from work. That was the approach from the Yorkshire Motor Festival. However, I think it's important that we do have events in the locale. I understand that not everybody's a fan of petrol heads, and not everybody's a petrol head, and not everybody's a fan of knitting, but we certainly wouldn't want to put off knitting convention, and we certainly wouldn't want to put off events which attract, even if it's mainly male people between the age of 35 and 65, though I fail to see what's wrong with male people between the ages of 65 and 35 myself.
Thank you for your contribution. Councillor Hogley.
Davis.
Sorry, was it Councillor Davis? I think it was Councillor Hogley, then Councillor Davis, then Councillor Brook, then Councillor Sheard, is how I remember it. Councillor Hogley.
Okay, I think it's really helpful to hear all the comments that members of the public in particular have made, because I know obviously it's particularly affected certain communities, and I don't take away from the inconvenience, the hassle, the noise, the difficulty with road closures and access and all those things. But I think there's kind of two key elements that have come out of Councillor Bustard's presentation, and obviously all the supportive material. There's clearly been an impact on local people, and specifically on the area around Upper Thong and to an extent Nether Thong, and obviously the surrounding roads. And clearly, yes, but I'm just talking about the Holme Valley at the minute. And the impact has been due to apparently a real lack of effective consultation and communication ultimately. I mean, consultation to some degree, okay, people will come to you, and if you say, well, I don't want it to be a festival, then clearly, even if that was said, there is still coming back and saying, right, well, it's happening anyway. But there's ways in which people can communicate, which would be far superior to clearly what's happened this year. Now, I think we've got to obviously recognise that given the COVID pandemic, that will have have affected all organisations and all groups trying to organise anything. So I think I'm not saying that the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival couldn't have done things better, because clearly they could have done, and clearly there's an awful lot of legislation and guidance that they could wade through to make sure they're following everything, and ideally they should have done that. But I do wonder if, because they knew that the likelihood of a festival going ahead was fading, if you like, and then suddenly there was the opportunity to organise one, they scaled it back, and as a consequence some of their promises they didn't deliver on, like the electric buses, because there wouldn't have been enough people to service to make it viable, but also in terms of their contact with people. But clearly it was inadequate, and I think that's a really important message that needs to go to them. And the length of the closures as well. I know that I live not far away from it, and I know there were lots of road closures that you thought, why are they still there at the moment, particularly before it started. And obviously the issue of noise and disturbance for people who actually lived on the route, I recognise that it was noisy for that period of time, although I do always, it's always difficult to know, because I live somewhere that's not far off the Greenfield Road, and the Greenfield Road regularly has motorbikes roaring up there very loudly. Now obviously in a festival there ought to be means for reducing the noise, and as I understand it from some communications we've had from the Motorsports Festival, there was some attention given to reducing the noise of vehicles, and if there's ways of, I can't remember what it was talked about, removing the open exhaust, doing noise tests, then that should be encouraged to reduce the actual disturbance from the festival. But the second key element of the festival is really the impact on the environment. There's no question, obviously it's had an environmental impact, and the Climate Emergency Committee, which I've recently become chair of, one of our members calculated that on the basis of some assumptions that say there were 3,500 people, and they took a little sample of people who came, potentially just the journeys of those people attending generated 41,000 kilograms of carbon. Now there's lots of ways you can calculate the figures, and there's the carbon of the festival itself, but it's really about people travelling to it, which is the lion's share of it.
Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Dalton.
Yeah, they don't generate carbon, they generate carbon dioxide. It's a different molecule. Carbon dioxide is plant food. Plants love it, and they generate lots of it.
Thanks for your information.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. I've written down carbon dioxide here. So there we are. Anyway, but yes, I haven't said it, I recognise that. But I think we've got to, there's two things that spring to mind. One is that we are, as a valley, somewhere that seeks to attract tourists. We are a tourist destination, we have a beautiful environment, I absolutely love where we live, and yes, I want to protect it, but I want to recognise that actually it's an important part of our economy, bringing people to enjoy walking, cycling, and indeed driving around the area. And I think we have marketed ourselves, or looked to, be it informally rather than formally, as a festival town, specifically around Holme. And some of those festivals, in fact, we badge them as it's a great opportunity to bring people into the valley. So just because it's a motorsports festival doesn't mean that people are necessarily travelling further than they do for, say, the arts festival, the film festival, the food and drink festival. They're all about bringing people in. But I do recognise that obviously the attraction of motorsports can be seen as more detrimental, because those vehicles may be producing more pollutants. But I think there could be an argument on climate point of view, is that we're all one planet, and therefore if we just say, well, not in our backyard, they'll just go somewhere else, and then people will all travel to that. So the carbon dioxide impact in the area won't change. So I think as a parish council we have to look at the benefits of it versus the environmental impact, and obviously the localised impact, and as I said, don't take away from the localised thing. So rather than just saying, no, we're not interested in working with you, you don't have our support, which actually, as I understand it, we can't actually stop it. We're not the ones that issue the licences anyway. But I think we should take the opportunity to try and work constructively with the festival organisers and say, look, there were a lot of mistakes made this year. We really want to bring your attention to the local community impact, the communication, the length of the closures, and the nature of last-minute COVID planning. Things like pedestrian access from Upperthong direction was woeful. It was really difficult to get in. And things like that. They need feedback from us to make sure that whatever happens moving forward is done in a much more constructive way. But I would not support a motion, because I think we should work constructively. I think we should write expressing all the concerns and reflecting all this feedback, but that should go into what I understand is a post-event meeting, which Kirklees Council is having with the organisers at the beginning of September. And I think we should write, as a parish council, reflecting the discussion tonight and highlighting those things for them to take seriously.
Thank you, Councillor Hogler. Councillor Davis.
I could say it's all been covered, and I think it has, and actually I'm very supportive of what Councillor Hogler's just said. I think she's covered some of the key points in a very balanced way, and certainly, as I said, very supportive of that. I think just a couple of things to add, just for clarification more than anything. It is true that Kirby's Council has got a memorandum of understanding with the organisation. As far as I'm aware, and I'm not a contracts lawyer, as far as I'm aware, I don't believe that's a commercial contract. There is no commercial relationship between the council and this company. So just for some clarification on that basis. In terms of some of the work that went on, because there's been quite a bit said about, if you like, almost the delinquency of the council. But certainly during the event, it's been reported to me that Infection Control and Environmental Health actually carried out 2 site inspections in terms of COVID in particular, obviously, but even further than that, which they would normally do anyway, for most sites. The West Yorkshire Police were fully involved in the Safety Advisory Group, and we're happy with the arrangements that were made. As Councillor Hogler says, certainly there's going to be a debrief on the 4th of September, as I understand it, and that is a review. Actually, I think it was intimated that there has been no review, and the council has just said, oh, that's it, it's gone. We're just going to go to the next one. That's not the case. In terms of the environmental issues, we did have a very long debate and discussion with the Climate Emergency Committee, and again, some not quite right information. The Climate Emergency Committee did not have a stall there, but it is true to say that Zero Carbon Yorkshire had a stall there, where they spoke to, I think it was close to 90 people, talking to them about environmental issues, getting their views on how to reduce carbon, etc. One of our co-optees, who's on the Climate Emergency Committee, happens to be a member of our organisation. But just to clarify that one as well, I think it's very difficult, isn't it, when, as I said earlier on, people are very passionate about things, and understandably so. If you live close to something and there's noise nuisance, and you're upset about something, it's very difficult for you to personally have a measured response and believe that other people, support you as well. The problem we have tonight is it's absolutely fantastic that we've got members of the public coming over and expressing their views, which, as Councillor Hogler, we can pass on, we can pay attention to. But we can't honestly say tonight we've got a full view of the population of the valley. That's just not possible for us to do that. We can only surmise things. So it is quite difficult to do that. But absolutely take on board what's been said tonight, and I think it's very, very clear that there are issues in terms of communication and consultation, and that seems to be a key problem that's happened here. The other thing I would finally add is Councillor Bustard kept talking about 50,000, 30,000 and big numbers, and that's quite right. Those are the original numbers talked about. But through the work the Kirklees Council did in conjunction with the organisers, to be fair, he said that was reduced to 2,000 a day. So I think we have to be very careful that we weren't talking about that size of thing. If you could let me finish, and then you can jump in, no problem. But I think, and this may be a point you're going to make anyway, certainly the aspiration is for a much larger event. Absolutely. And therefore, I'd support Councillor Hogler's view that what we need to do, and do that early, and there's an opportunity in September, and those opportunities will extend going forward, is working with not just the organisers, but with Kirklees Council to make sure that the voice of residents are heard and the voice of parish councillors in any discussions going. I know that will be possible because I've had discussions with the strategic director. I think if we work in a constructive manner, there is no issue with us doing that going forward. If we at this point simply say we're not going to do that, we're going to stop anything happening, we're not going to stop, we are going to oppose the granting of any licence going forward, because quite likely we haven't got that nowhere anyway, then we really, you know, take no advantage of those opportunities to put together something which can work far more effectively, can meet the requirements of residents, and actually bring benefit to value. If it becomes transparent through that process that it's not possible for the myriad of reasons that Councillor Starnes raised to do that, then that's a different situation, isn't it? But I don't think we're in that situation at this point.
Okay.
So,
And Councillor Davis, I noticed you raising your hand, Councillor Buster. Have you got a point of order, or would you like right to reply? If you would like, I'll have to give you right of reply after all the councillors. I'll give you right to reply after all the councillors have spoken, unless you've got a specific point of order. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, back to the public to go on some of the information. It was quite frightening listening about the helpline regarding what I think I brought up tonight about local area. To me, that sounds very dangerous and it's a stupid thing to happen in this day and age, and it's for our community. But going back to what another councillor said, if it's done correctly and proper procedures are done, you know, it's a possible event, but, you know, communication's been bad. Let's be honest, communication's been terrible with this. One thing what worries me, and I don't know if it's true or not, they've advertised that the Parish Council have said, yes, this is okay. This is the first thing I knew about this, and I'm not saying we're giving the license or anything like that, but that needs to be corrected by the Parish Council that we've never okayed this in any form.
Oh, we did, so.
Well, not all members of the council knew about it, then I'll rephrase it. I don't know, was it the planning or something like that?
I think it was noted at planning that we were made aware of the event. I don't think we actually gave any expressed support.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not working clear, but if you've
Did
got...
we receive the payment that the Motorsports Festival had promised to the climate emergency?
I'm not aware that we've saved any payment at all from the...
But, Mr. Chairman, if that is the case, I mean, I think that, you know, the should be correct that we didn't, okay, you know, say, okay, well, this we did, I missed a meeting, I'll get you understand. But what I'm worried about is, as Councillor Hodges and Councillor Davis have said, is, yeah, we've got to look at this event and see what's going to be in the future, what can we do to help to make it safer. Now, the environmental impact, as this Kinton said, you know, is there any replacement of the carbon, you know, carbon footprint, what they're planning to do? To replace it like a lot of other companies do, like planting trees or, you know, doing something to help the community than just burning fossil fuels. So I think, you know, something like that should be looked into with the parish saying, look, you know, this is what we should be looking at. So, you know, reduce risk, reduce the environmental impact on this by planting trees maybe, or doing something else to help the environment than just doing what they did. I don't think that, for us, something never got looked into. There's a lot of things what Councillor Buster mentioned tonight. Obviously, we can't comment on it too much because of the time impact and also what the vote is. But I also want to vote against it myself personally because I think there's not enough information at the moment to make a valid judgment of what we can and can't do. So I think, as Councillor Davis said, we need to get a lot more opinions in before we make a true assessment of what we can and can't do.
Thank you, Councillor Brooke. Councillor Sheard.
Yeah, I'd actually personally like to make a public apology on behalf of myself that I voted for this proposal at the previous meeting because I am actually on the climate emergency. There is a Quaker saying, there is always a possibility that you may be wrong, and I feel I was really wrong in supporting this, and I'm going to support Mark Bustard. I feel that there is lots of greenwash goes on. I feel ashamed we have a declared climate emergency and we are not at all sticking to it. The pollution from these, I apologise, I don't know much about cars, but the pollution from these exhausts, you know, we're supposed to be protecting biodiversity. I did put in a proposal because they talk about this greenwash issue of offsetting. So I spent a whole day putting in a proposal for a community orchard as a way of offsetting. But it's not good enough. It really isn't. If we're having a declared climate emergency, we need to have some integrity. And I fell short of my own integrity on this issue. And I feel very disappointed. There's a lot of groupthink in our parish council, and I, for one, got swept up with groupthink. And I will not do it again. I will have to just hold my own. I might be unpopular, but at the age of 55, I don't mind being unpopular because I feel I need to speak my truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sheard. Councillor Bustard, I'll give you right up high.
Yeah.
I'd advise you to be brief so we can actually get a vote.
Yeah, I will be.
Like I said, don't filibuster yourself.
No, I certainly won't. My point was that the scale of the event at 30,000 as proposed and putting the licences completely unmanageable at that space. Sorry, my point was that one of the key points is that the event at the proposed licence capacity of 30,000 is unmanageable and not something that we should be supportive of, especially given the lack of conditions or engagement. That's why I'm requesting that we withdraw all our support, because at the minute it says in the licence that this event has the full support of Holme Valley Parish Council, and the same in Motorsports UK, which I do not believe is correct. We can completely engage with the organisers and Kirklees Council, and we could support a subsequent application. But at the minute, I'm asking that we correct the record until we've got all the information that we need to make an informed decision, because I don't think we have. That's it.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand that. Do you mean what you're proposing is just about the one that's just happened?
No, at the minute, this is as I understand it, a 5-year licence of around...
No, they have a 5-year memorandum of understanding.
5-year MOU with 30,000 people due to appear next year. And at the minute, that has our full support. I'm saying withdraw that full support until you fully understand the details of the event and the planning, and you can say, we've reviewed everything, we totally get it, it's environmentally friendly, it's so on and so forth. And we can be fully supportive because we're fully
Mark,
sorry.
You're going to talk yourself out of time. Can we move on?
Just a point of information. We have, as far as I'm aware, correct me if you chair the time, Councillor, we have not agreed to any 5-year plan. We were consulted on this year.
Can you clarify who the we is?
Sorry. We as Holme Valley Parish Council were consulted on this event. In the same fashion, we'll be consulted on next year's event. I don't see what. That's why I'm confused as to why.
We've got 5. Sorry, Councillor Dalton.
When was the parish council consulted on the event?
Can I give some clarity and hopefully get to a motion and we can have a vote? Yeah? Or we can just carry on talking and I'll rule it out at 9:30 and we'll go home.
No, let's get to the
Okay, so I believe that the event did approach the climate emergency regarding discussion of the event, yeah, and it was raised there, but it's not, and sorry, I'm not up to date with the minutes of that meeting and what was agreed and what wasn't agreed, but I don't believe that it was agreed at the full council that we would support the event. So as far as I'm aware, we have not expressed this full council support for this event, which went ahead, yeah? That's my understanding. I'm getting a lot of nodding heads here, yeah? Therefore, looking at this motion that we need to vote on, can we amend it to be Holme Valley Parish Council? I'm going to propose some amendments. I'll need someone to second the amendments. You haven't heard my amendments yet, so don't second them until I've told you the amendments, please. Okay, we amend it to Holme Valley Parish Council. I can't see how we can withdraw any support when we haven't given any support. Yeah?
Just say explicit or implied.
Yeah, okay, so I'll take that on board. Holme Valley Parish Council withdraws any support, explicit or implied, for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival, and I would insert there, propose that we put at this time, and request that Kirklees Council, Motorsports, you revoke licence for hosting future events. I would take away for hosting future events and any current licences. I would change that too. Does that make any sense?
So that's
Yeah.
yes.
I would change it. This is what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
This is the amendment. Holme Valley Parish Council withdraws any support, explicit or implied, for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival at this time,
Right.
and request that Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK revoke any current licences, full stop.
Right.
I don't believe we should, and my thinking is that I don't believe we should be tying our hands for any future events and just saying we made a decision here that we won't support any future events, and no matter what you do, we're never ever going to support it. Yeah? So any current licences, I would say we revoke support for. That's my proposed amendment. Has anyone got any?
I second that amendment.
Sorry to be...
Councillor Davis?
Just so that everybody's clear, I suppose the point we can go to the point of withdrawing support because we haven't
given support,
anyway,
yeah.
so I don't know what we're withdrawing. In terms of current licence, the event has happened. So therefore, how can we withdraw support for a licence of an event that's already happened? I don't, and in terms of the MOU, as far as I'm aware, that's not a licence. That they would have to apply for another licence and go through another process. So I'm not really sure if I don't know.
Okay, if you want to argue against the amendment, we can go with hosting future events.
No, I'm just trying to work out what that.
Yeah, I'm saying that any current licences or current MOU that they've got, we don't show any support from. We ask them to revoke. Yeah, and
so you're saying the same thing that you want to revoke. So you want to revoke the MOU.
Any current MOU. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Blackley, Councillor Bustard.
Could we just insert the, if I can speak, the MOU as well as licence, and then
take out the word licence and put
licence and MOU. Yeah.
Licence and MOU. I'm quite happy to go with that. Have you got all this, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Blacker.
Sorry, I was going to suggest an amendment that we just delete the second part of the motion, which is about Kirklees Council and Motorsports UK, that we focus purely on the Parish Council. But I would.
That's a
bit catchy.
That's second amendment.
I would suggest that withdraw any support or whatever the wording is until such a time as we are satisfied that all legal requirements have been met or will be met.
Yeah,
I'd second that.
Have we got that, Richard?
Can you give me that? I mean, I've got it all on tape anyway. So.
Well, we all need to know what we're voting on.
Give us the email again.
Give it back.
Give me
So let me just go through a point of process here. No, sorry, I don't need to do it because we didn't second my amendment and vote on it. So yeah, we'll just go.
Do you want to give me
I will yield to that amendment, Councillor Blacker.
Will you give me
Please.
So the wording that you already decided, but then add until such time as we are satisfied that all legal requirements are met. And I'm also suggesting that we delete the reference to Motorsports UK and Kirklees Council. We just keep. Sorry, that's two amendments.
No, I would argue the word legal.
Okay.
Yeah, it may be legal, but we don't like it.
Yeah.
But we'd have to agree with it.
Chair, point of order. Can I suggest we suspend standing orders for 10 minutes so that we can finish this debate and vote?
Someone second that?
Yeah.
All those in favour? Okay, we'll move the meeting. Will now finish at 22. Councillor Davis.
Just a question, I guess, is and maybe I should have said this earlier. What are we trying to achieve? I think, in my own mind, I think what we're trying to achieve is to ensure that if there's a future event, it's done in a proper fashion, with proper regard to consultation and working with the residents. That's what we're trying to do, I think. So So part of what you said is reflected in that, isn't it? Rather than saying, we just withdraw, it's about how do we ensure that happens going forward.
Okay.
Is that what we're trying to do?
Okay.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay. From where we are and from the sort of like getting my feeling of the meeting and the council that's spoken and the members of the public, yeah? My feeling is what we're trying to achieve is that we're not happy about, lots of people in this room are not happy about the way things have been organised and where they've been done. Councillor Sheard.
We can't have a
Councillor Sheard, we don't hold this event. We don't run this event. We don't put it on. We don't say yes to it. We don't say no to it. So we can't say we are not going to have an event. We can either support it or we don't support it.
What you can, it's a legal requirement.
It's not a legal requirement. This parish council supports it.
My understanding is that according to the licences, it says that the event has the full support of the parish council and that we've been consulted.
Yeah, and if they want to resubmit to Kirklees Council and take out any reference to Holme Valley Parish Council, they can do. And whether Kirklees grant it or not is up to Kirklees Council. We have no powers whether we grant that or not. Yeah, we have no statutory.
Excuse me, I've got my hand.
Sure.
Councillor Collins and then Councillor Brook.
I think we need to separate the principle from the organisation here. There are two slightly separate objections to this festival. One is that it happens and involves petrol pollution and all the things that Councillor Sheard was talking about, and the other is that it was organised badly, it was badly, all the things everybody's covered. And I think there are two different views on those two separate parts of the objections to the meeting.
Point taken. Councillor Brook.
Yeah, just sort of a point here. Councillor Sheard is quite able to make a point and make a proposal that, you know, we refuse it. We shouldn't be doing.
Councillor Brook, point of order. It's not in our power or our will to refuse it. But continue.
Councillor Sheard is allowed to make a proposal. As if Council accepts it, it's not. But a proposal's been made. I think a lot of people are sort of in agreement. So it's good 9:30. Can we move forward? But Councillor Sheard, we're all right to make a proposal if it's detrimental to the council law.
Councillor Dalton.
Thank you. I'll be brief. We've heard from the public. I'm concerned that if we go to a vote, whichever way it goes, the real people who should be getting the feedback from this, which are the paid staff members in Kirklees, who are making these deals behind closed doors, quite overtly not consulting us, and this is all going to be lost. The most important thing that should come out of this meeting, in my view, is that the representations that we've heard about safety, about noise, about environmental impact, should be shared and given to Kirklees, and especially the matter on, hey, Kirklees, we pay you to do a job. They're our roads. If somebody wants to come and use them, you come and talk to us and explain what's going on and get some feedback and consent from the people whose lives are going to be disturbed by this, especially if it's going to happen in subsequent years, because it doesn't have to be a pain. If this event does go ahead, it doesn't have to be an aggravation for the locals. It doesn't have to be.
Okay, so we can get to a vote. We have an amendment. Do we have an amendment?
Yes, it's
Would you like to read it out for us, Richard, so everybody knows what the vote is on?
So the proposal is that we revoke the current licences and MOUs until such a time as all legal requirements are met, so that any future event is done properly with proper consultation.
No. Councillor Blacker.
So perhaps if we could withdraw any cooperation until such time, because we haven't got an agreement.
Can we use the word support, because that's the word that's used in the licence?
Yeah, I think cooperations, we're going to refuse any cooperation, so if they come to us, what do you think about this? Okay. No, we refuse cooperations, not.
The original proposal was that we withdraw support.
We will vote on the original proposal. We'll have to vote on the amendment first and then see if the proposal stands. Councillor Sheard.
Somewhere in your written, whatever you're doing there, needs to be the fact that we have a declared climate emergency.
Councillor Davis.
I understand absolutely what Councillor Sheard said, but if that was the case, we would then start to actually have to do the same for every single in the valley.
I take on board.
So it's very, I'm afraid it's not, because although this, if you like, celebrates.
Councillor Davis, can I interrupt you? Yeah, I'd like to get to a vote. Yeah, and I'd just like to say that I take on board Councillor Sheard's very, very valid comments. Yeah, that you know. However, I did say earlier on today that the motion that was in front of us will be based on what's been submitted in Mark's motion here. Yeah. So it's about our support for any for withdrawing our support. Yeah, and for any, you know, going forward. So, do we have an amendment?
I mean, I don't really. I mean, can we get a bit of clarity to it?
Please, can we?
Would it be better if Councillor Blacker just read out again?
So, as I understand it, I think it's the Holme Valley Parish Council withdraws any support for the Yorkshire Motorsports Festival until such time as we are satisfied that all legal requirements are met.
Yeah.
Are you sure we want legal requirements? They could meet all the legal requirements, but we all hate it. We all don't want it to go ahead, and we'd have to support it.
Okay, I'm perfectly happy to accept an amendment to that. Well, legal requirements and
Legislation, guidance and best practice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mark. I would much prefer that.
Yeah.
Councillor Sheard.
The legal requirements as years go by will be a reduction in CO2 emissions, so it's never going to be met.
If they're able to meet the legal requirements, the guidance and industry best
Councillor
practices,
Bustard.
we should have a good one. Sorry.
Through the chair.
Apologise.
Have we an amendment? Thank you.
So the proposal is that Holme Valley Parish Council withdraws its support for the Yorkshire Motorsport Festival until such time as legislation, guidance and best practice is met.
I propose that motion. Have we got a seconder? I propose that amendment.
I think Councillor Davis
Yeah,
is...
who makes that decision on whether those conditions are met? Because
Well, it's us that's supporting it, so we'd have to be... It's us that we would change our minds, so it's us we have to be... Consider that best practice has been met, isn't it? It's us.
It has to be passed by the Climate Emergency Committee.
No.
This
by the
amendment
council.
doesn't have to be passed by any committee. We need a seconder for the amendment. And
Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Pick which one you like. Councillor Collins. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? Okay, that motion as amended has been carried. Thank you all for your support and thank you all for attending today.